You're listening to Scribble Talk, a podcast for bid and proposal professionals. My name is Bhaskar Sundram, and with my co-host,
Ashley Case,
we will be sitting down with our industry veterans to share their stories, discuss their career, and learn how to make an impact in the industry.
Today's guest is Constance Reid. Constance is a senior level business development professional with over 12 years of providing leading capture and proposal strategy. She has led bid efforts for up to $25 billion in global public sector and commercial deals for Leidos, IBM, and currently Amazon Web Services. She is skilled in marketing to a variety of government and commercial customers, including the Department of Energy, Department of State, DoD, DVA, and many commercial medical providers, payers, and researchers. Constance has been active in APMP for many years, sat on the 2015 to 2017 Board of Directors, and on the 2015 to 2017 NCA Board of Directors as Secretary. She was the Inaugural APMP Future Leader awardee and a part of the Inaugural APMP 40 Under 40 class. She has participated as a speaker at the 2018 Bid and Proposal Con in San Diego, presenting on building efficient and effective bid processes. She is particularly proud of having developed the ongoing mentorship program for the Association of Proposal Management Professionals DC Metro Area chapter. When she's not leading and developing winning proposals, Constance spends her time with her husband, son, and 14-year-old poodle. During quarantine, she's finding ways to channel her in-home energy into redecorating, trying new recipes, and finding new ways to incorporate learning for her 9-month-old in day-to-day activities. Welcome, Constance, to Scribble Talk. So great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited about this session.
So Constance, we like to start in the beginning. So we're curious, where were you born? Where did you grow up? And where did you go to school?
Sure. So all of those things happened in South Carolina. I'm originally from South Carolina, native Carolinian. I was born and raised in Summerton, South Carolina, which is about an hour west of Columbia, in Charleston, South Carolina, which I think most people are probably most familiar with. I went to school in high school, middle school, all of those developmental times in my hometown. And then I moved right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina to Rock Hill to go to Winthrop University, which is where I obtained my Bachelor's of Science degree in Integrated Marketing Communications. Following that, I obtained my master's degree also in Charlotte at Strayer University, and before I relocated to the DC area. So originally from the Carolinas, proudly.
Oh, it's such a nice area down there. Do you get to go back and visit family?
So I live in South Carolina right now. I moved back to the area at the beginning of 2016, and actually just relocated again from Charlotte to a small town outside of Charlotte, which is Fort Mill, and that's where I live currently with my family. So we love it. It's great here.
Yeah, it's beautiful there. So you mentioned you kind of went to school in more of the marketing areas. Was your first job in marketing, or did you go straight into kind of the business development arena?
So my first job was in marketing. Originally, I worked for a company called Muzak, and I think most people are familiar with it as the background music or elevator music company. A lot of times, if you watch movies and you watch them with closed captions on, like I do, they'll narrate the music in the background as Muzak playing. And so I had done an internship with them, and then once I graduated, I was brought on full-time as an account manager for some of the voice messaging services that were offered. And so I started out doing on hold and in-store messaging for Muzak. And so I segued that job into a marketing role. I applied for a marketing specialist position for Ariba Federal Services, which is based out of Washington State, but there's a small arm of it located in Charlotte. And so when I applied for the job and came in to do an interview, that's when it was revealed to me that the job was actually supporting proposals. And at the time, I had never heard of a proposal outside of the marriage context. And so I was completely lost, and had to go first pretend like I knew what they were talking about, and then go run and do some research and find out what's the proposal and what's this job really about. But really, a big part of it was that I thought I was applying for a marketing position and doing more of what I was familiar with from having majored in the area and done a lot of work and developed my skills in that area. And so to come in and, you know, have the curtain pulled back essentially and find out that this marketing job is actually proposals, which now looking back several years, it's related, but not in the context that I was thinking when I first had gone after the position.
Oh, that's so interesting. So it sounds like you ended up taking that position and kind of learning as you went.
Absolutely. So when I was brought on, it was myself and my colleague. We started on the same day. She also had no idea about proposals either. And so I think what stood out about the two of us, we were brought on as contractors, but we both had a lot of writing experience. And I think that they were looking for people with the writing skills that we had. Once we started the job and came into it, then we were pulled into all these color team reviews and kickoffs and, you know, all these terms that we've never heard of. And so I'm like, what's a kickoff? What's, you know, a color team review? Why are we having a red team? I even have a funny anecdote about my then manager had asked us to do storyboards. And I'm like, well, what's a storyboard? And he's like, you know, just lay out how the section's going to look. And at the time I was over resumes and my colleague had been assigned past performance. I'm like, I know what a resume is, sure. And, you know, never heard of past performance at that point. And so I literally pulled out a sheet of paper and a ruler and I'm drawing like you might do a layout for a newspaper back in the day. And that's what my original storyboard looked like. And I turned it in and he's like, yeah, okay, great. And now knowing what I know and looking back, I'm like, why in the world would he have accepted that? What, you know, in what world does this help anybody get to our final proposal by having, you know, this layout of this page and this is where a picture is going to go and then this first section. And, you know, it was helpful, but I don't think, you know, where I am now, it probably wasn't the strongest deliverable. And I don't know how effective it was. It probably was just a redundant activity. But, you know, those little hiccups in the beginning really helped me learn and also become a better manager as well. And so when I go into help people who have never really been in the proposal industry, or especially when it comes to the mentorship program, that's what I had in mind when I started thinking about people who were starting out in the proposal industry and had no real context of a lot of the Shipley milestones in the process and some of those best practices. I wanted people to be able to understand those things and come into their jobs and exchange ideas across industries and across companies, and not turn in a 8.5 by 11 page with squares perfectly drawn all over it like I had done before.
Yeah, what an amazing memory, and what a great way to turn it into how you can help others not make those kind of same hiccups and really explain things and make sure that everything's translating for those who might not be as experienced.
Absolutely.
So that was a really fun memory. I'm sure you've worked on some other really memorable efforts and certainly some very large efforts. Are there any that kind of stand out to you?
One of the proposal efforts I think that stands out the most, and anytime anybody asks about a crazy proposal story or memorable proposal effort, the one I always seem to go to, and to me, it doesn't seem that exciting, but I'm like, well, it's the first one I always think about, is an IDIQ recompete that I was the proposal manager over. The team is pretty large, it was a pretty complex bid, but what made it memorable wasn't those complexities, because I feel like a lot of proposal efforts come with the same set of complexities with tight deadlines and tight schedules and crazy personalities. But this one was memorable because we were able to leverage all of those things to work in our favor and make it more of an enjoyable experience, one that we took a lot away from. So, for example, this effort was over 2 holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it may have been due on like January 3rd. It was a few years ago, so I'm not remembering exactly what the schedule looked like. But we, you know, co-located in a war room in Reston, and we all got together, and nobody was really happy about working on a proposal, per usual. No one's ever happy about it, right? B, working together in a war room on a proposal, and then C, doing A and B over the holidays. And so we got really creative about trying to compact the schedule so that we have a little bit more time around the holidays. But then also we got to take some of that time and spend some time together that was not related to proposals. And so one of my coworkers that was on that proposal effort, he is Asian American. And so he had taken us out to a Korean restaurant that was in Annandale and ordered for us from the menu. And we got to try all these different foods. And, you know, he was explaining to us about the culture and just everything that we were trying. And it, you know, was one of those times that we really enjoyed and, you know, got to have some fun. It wasn't just about us being together as coworkers, but really also understanding each other as people. And so I love that we got to do that. And the restaurant we went to is still one of my favorite places. When I come to Virginia and visit, I still go to this place and I try to order what he told me to order. I end up texting him sometimes and asking, hey, was that set, you know, you got us that time. But then not only that, you know, even with the volatility and the, you know, hostile interactions sometimes, I think that proposal effort really kind of brought us together as more of a family and kind of having that family feel than just us being coworkers and bringing together our skills and experience to put together a winning bid. And while we did end up winning, that to me, when I think about that effort, was more of the subtext to what really happened amongst us as a group. And so that core proposal team and a lot of the contributors in the war room and outside the war room, I think that we could all say, looking back, that, you know, it's one of those efforts that really brought us together as people and allowed us to understand each other better, get to know each other better, get to know each other's backgrounds. I mean, we had so many fun conversations about our childhoods and our families and different traditions and customs and, you know, the things that make us different. And then some of the things that brought us together to that war room. And so it was just a really rewarding experience as a human, as a person.
Absolutely. So we talked about some of your achievements in the introduction there. Can you tell us, you know, some of the key achievements that you're most proud of today?
Yeah, so one of the things that you mentioned earlier when you were going through my introduction, which thank you, by the way, was several of the things through APMP. One of the things that I've enjoyed the most about being a part of the proposal profession and being immersed in the industry has been being able to get involved outside of my day-to-day work. And so being a part of APMP has been really awesome and rewarding. I joined back in 2010 when I was first drawing out storyboards on a sheet of paper, not really being all that familiar with it, but I found the organization through searching for ways to seek out certification and continued education opportunities. And so I stumbled upon APMP that way and, you know, begged my manager to let me go to the writing training that was for writing executive summaries and just overall improving bid writing. And so I was able to take advantage of that opportunity, and I went to that training and brought back a lot of the things that I'd learned there. And then when I relocated to the DC area, then I was able to do a bit more networking and meet a lot of the awesome folks that are part of the organization. So as you mentioned, I sat on the local NCA board for some time. And there I was at one of the bid and proposal cons early on and sat in a session that was talking about leaning in, essentially, and how to elevate as a woman in the industry. And me being me and being an extreme multitasker, and some might even call it ADHD, I'm not sure, undiagnosed, obviously. But I was on my phone, and I get my best ideas when I'm not able to do very much. So if I can't use my hands, or I'm, you know, stuck in a session, or even just driving or in the shower, when I can't write down stuff, like I really want to, that's when things come to me that I've been able to really capitalize and make a big idea and just really think big. And so that's what happened. I was listening to the panel in this session, and the wheels started turning a little bit, and I got my iPhone out and I started making notes. I'm like, you know, what if we had a mentorship program? Because one of the things that the panel had spoken about, some of the women there had mentioned that they had mentors in their careers that had really helped them along the way. And so I started thinking about this mentorship idea. And so I started making bullet points in the notepad function of my iPhone and took it back to our board meeting and said, you know, hey, what if we did this program where we coupled seasoned proposal professionals with some of the younger proposal professionals, because as a younger proposal professional, a lot of times we don't necessarily have as much of a voice or even just the experience or the exposure. Whereas you have some of the more well-known proposal professionals, like the ones you've had featured on this podcast before, who were doing amazing things, and they're the, you know, regular speakers at some of the big proposal conferences and some of the local proposal conferences, and just, you know, truly just having a ton of knowledge in their areas. And so I really wanted to leverage that and take advantage of it. And so I presented it to the board, my fellow board members, and they liked it. And so I took the helm and started putting together standard operating procedures and applications, and then thinking about how this could run and how we could graduate people. And then the benefit they would take away from that. Is this going to mean a promotional opportunity for somebody, or is this just going to be a learning opportunity? But what I found was that people were getting something from it in all areas, whether it was just, you know, networking, whether it was a long-term relationship that you could call on your fellow person and run advice by, whether it was, you know, really strengthening skills in order to improve the opportunity to be promoted or get a raise at your job. A lot of people are finding different results from it. And so that very first class had, I believe it was 33 people sign up. And so we had several pairs. And it was just really exciting. And the more we went along with it, the more we were able to do with it, because everybody was really excited, really involved, really engaged with the program. And so we had speakers come into some of the meetings. We had our Mike Parkinsons, our Colleen Jollies, and Betsy Blakeney's come in and talk to the group about their experiences, you know, personally and professionally. And so as time went on, you know, I obviously saw the value in it early on just because I knew my own experience, but, you know, I saw people getting even more from it than I had even ever imagined. And so it started getting picked up in other chapters just across the country. And then there were some of the global chapters that were picking up too, the chapter in South Africa. I believe there was a chapter in the UK who also wanted to try and put something in place that emulated that same sort of framework. And then I believe PMI even picked up pretty much the same exact program for their own organization local to the DC area. And so it was rewarding to see it start to become repeated because, you know, basically the impact becomes wider and wider, and the reach is farther. However, for me, what I wanted to see come out of it, you know, really came out tenfold in terms of what people were able to take away from the program, how much they were able to grow, and then just also bringing together people and bringing more exposure to some of the younger people. And by young, I don't just mean by age, but even some people who were making career changes midway through their career and coming into the proposal profession. And so it went from just having, or some people seeing proposals as being some of an administrative function, to really, you know, helping people to grow the skill set and something they could use to become better leaders in their company and become better leaders in the proposal industry.
Absolutely. And it's absolutely something you should be very proud of. And, you know, it's still a very successful program in the DC area, and it really has grown. And it's amazing, you know, that you really started that, and you get to see, you know, this huge impact that really you've had on the industry, and then, you know, growing into organizations like PMI. It's really impressive. So before we dig more into your APMP background, can you tell us 3 things that not many people know about you?
3 things, that's hard. I don't know how many people know this. When I was in DC, I taught spin classes. I was a spin instructor for about 4 years.
Wow.
I don't know how many people actually are familiar with that, but I did. So outside of working proposals by day, I would go and teach spin classes in the evenings in Falls Church and also in Alexandria.
Very cool.
Another one, I would say another thing people may not know, I love to travel. I've been traveling for some time now. And then when I met my husband, we traveled together. We've been several places, and one of the things that I love to do when I go to these places is to bring something back. And so I have a collection of local spirits from different countries. And so
cool.
I have a sake that I picked up from Tokyo. I have a spirit that I picked up that was local to Thailand. I have I don't know if it's the real thing or not, because I don't know if you're actually supposed to take it out of the country, but in Dominican Republic, they have their local drink, which is called Mama Juana, and I brought some of that back that I bought from one of their local stores. So I think it was more so, a novelty than the actual drink, but it was just kind of cool to see that they have something that is just local to the area, very specific to the area, and it's a part of their culture. And so that's where I started. And then every time I travel somewhere, I'd find out, what is your local spirit? If it's Puerto Rico, then I would bring back some rum. If it's Jamaica, then I'd bring back a Jamaican rum that was something that you really couldn't find very many other places, or either it was hard to find. And so that's how I started there. I brought a cognac back from France, just like things like that. So, and sometimes it gets kind of hard to find, something that's local. Some countries don't really have like a specific thing. It might just be, this is distilled here, or this is bottled here. So I'll grab that. Like I got a Rupert gin from London, but it's not something that's like a London staple per se. And so I try my best. And so my collection is probably up to about 50 something bottles now, but
oh my gosh.
And for anybody listening, it's not so fun because I don't actually drink them. I just like to have the collection of drinks, but they're just kind of sitting on a sideboard at my house.
Oh my goodness, how cool. But do you try them when you're in country at least?
Not really. I'm not a huge spirit person. Like I love to enjoy a nice wine, but I really am not a huge drinker. My husband and I traveled to London. It was for our anniversary, and I had us go to a whiskey making class because that's his thing. And he tried it, but I was pregnant, so I couldn't try it. And that was probably one of the times when I would have, just because we were already doing that. In Puerto Rico, I did try the rum, but again, it's not something that I necessarily want to be drinking. But I think it's just kind of cool to have whatever their staple is. Oh, and then my third thing that people don't know is I actually am ordained to be a wedding officiant. So if there's somebody listening who is engaged, I can marry you.
Nice. Have you done any, virtual weddings during COVID?
No, I haven't. And actually haven't been ordained that long. But hopefully somebody will trust me to do their wedding. I really want to, but no, I haven't done any.
Oh, that's amazing. So you mentioned, I think that you joined APMP as a member around 2010?
That's right.
And you mentioned kind of your first bid con as a participant. Do you remember, which one that was? Yeah,
so when I joined early on, I'd gone to the Mid-Atlantic Regional Conference, and then the training that I took part in was the writing winning proposals and executive summaries. I don't know if that's the exact name of it, but it was something to that effect. So that was my earliest experience doing anything with APMP, just as a participant.
Very cool. And what about, the international conference? Do you remember your first participation in that?
My first international conference. I want to say, I'm going to get this wrong, but I think it was Chicago. I think. It was either Chicago or Boston, but I'm pretty sure it was Chicago.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That's not true. It was Atlanta. Sorry. Yeah, it was the Atlanta conference. I was going to say I've been to quite a few of them back to back, and I want to say that Atlanta came before Chicago, and I went to the Atlanta conference as a member, but Chicago was where I had actually won the Future Leader Award, and I believe that was the 2015 or 2014 conference. But I went before that, the Atlanta located one.
Oh, that's amazing. And you are also part of the APMP Board of Directors. You mentioned like the huge accomplishment of the Mentor Protege program. Any other fond memories being on the board?
Really just being a part of the board. One of the things that I appreciated about the board was that they had encouraged me really early on as a young professional to join the board, and just having the opportunity to have my voice heard and to be somebody who was not really well known in the industry. I had just relocated to the area, not just being on the board, but having been encouraged to join it. I thought it was just something I really appreciated, and even looking back now, having been a part of the industry for some time now, was pretty, I think was a pretty big accomplishment, not just on my part, but on the part of my colleagues. And I think it says a lot about people that we work with day to day, not just within our company, but also within the industry, that, there is a lot of open-mindedness among everybody to continue to improve and continue to grow, continue to evolve best practices, and really understand all perspectives when it comes to what this industry is really about and how it's growing. One of the areas that was most important to me was about career development. As a young professional, it was important to me to understand career paths, how people ended up where they were, what the career paths look like for a proposal professional. There's some people who go into capture, some go into DD, there are some in graphics and production. And so I really wanted to understand where those opportunities lied. One of the things I think I mentioned early on was having come into this industry, not even knowing that I was coming into the industry. I thought I was going into marketing, and my degree was in marketing communications.
Yeah.
I had not only never heard of proposals, but it was something I hadn't prepared for or planned to go into the industry. I didn't go to college, thinking I'm going to go be a proposal manager one day. That was never the plan. But now that we see there's this whole world, there's an association that's working to try and evolve the profession and make it more novel and more well-known. I think that it's important that people who are coming right out of university are understanding that there's a world of opportunity just in this industry alone that can be lucrative, it can be advantageous, it can be skill set building. And there's a lot of areas for a lot of backgrounds to really find opportunity within. And so for me, that was probably the biggest thing that I got out of becoming a part of APMP, was networking with people and seeing, where they ended up, what kind of jobs they're doing. Are they consultants? There are people who are running small proposal shops and large proposal shops, capture managers, beauty managers, and some people who have done all of the above, and then they're doing something different today. And so I just appreciated being able to be exposed to that early on, and then also to have my voice heard as a part of the board.
Oh, absolutely. It's an amazing networking resource and a learning resource, and just getting that capability to learn from others and their paths and understand where the profession can take you. It's just such an amazing resource for those things. So
Agreed.
You gave a pretty interesting presentation at the San Diego Bid and Proposal Con. Can you tell us a little bit about that presentation?
Sure. It was a really nice opportunity to present to an audience. It was my first presentation, and I was encouraged by one of the APMP members, Mike Walsh, actually, to submit an abstract. It was one of my goals to take advantage of a speaking engagement, but I had really kind of hesitated and avoided it at all costs, and he really encouraged me to go after it. And so this was the proposal conference where we're trying a different format and wanted to do more panels and see if that was something that the members enjoyed a little bit more, was not just having one speaker speak for an hour and a half, but to have people speak amongst the panel. And so I sat on a panel with 3 other proposal experts, I shall say, because they were, really key, really strong in the industry, people that I spoke amongst. And so we presented together on efficient and effective bid processes. And it's been a 90-minute presentation with a full room of people who, fired questions at us. It was a really interactive session, really enjoyable, and a good opportunity for not just us to kind of speak to a room of people, but really have a forum for talking through scalable processes that work across different environments, like your commercial bids, like your small proposal shops, like those small businesses that are going after the tighter turnarounds, or some of the bigger shops that may be equipped to go after larger IDIQs or larger proposal contracts. And so it was really nice to have a ton of knowledge and resources, not just on the panel, but also in the room, and to be able to exchange ideas. And from that opportunity, I did a lot of networking there, and some of the people that were in the audience, reached out after the panel in the room, as well as on LinkedIn, or shot me an email, and we've been able to stay in touch since then and continue to exchange ideas. So that was really cool, and I hope to get the opportunity to do it again in the future.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That exchange of ideas is just so valuable, and it's just amazing that you can continue to build on those relationships after the conferences, and continue to grow those relationships and that learning opportunity. You were also an inaugural 40 Under 40 award winner. What an amazing accomplishment. Can you tell us a little bit about that award and kind of what that meant for you?
Absolutely. So the 40 Under 40 class was implemented the year after I won the Future Leader Award. I really, really, really appreciated that APMP thought so much as to put something in place that would recognize and drive younger professionals to do more and to get more involved and more engaged in not just their career, but also within the industry. And I think it was a part of the bigger initiative to engage more younger professionals. That was something that I saw happen as I sat on the board, and everybody really embraced the idea to really tap in on that resource group of younger professionals. Millennials get a really bad rap for not wanting to put a lot of work in, or really craving that convenience. But what I was able to witness was that this wasn't the case here, that my fellow colleagues saw just an untapped resource group of people where there were immense ideas for being more efficient, ideas for being able to bring fresher ideas. And really the biggest thing about APMP, especially when I sat on the board, was that we're constantly looking for ways to give back to the members. And so by engaging somebody that's a part of that, some focus group, so to speak, we were able to pull together some ideas that would make sure that all members were engaged, and not just the people who are a part of a certain subgroup, like consultants, or like your sponsors, or people like your seasoned proposal professionals who have a bigger voice and more of a reach in the group. Don't get me wrong, those are the people that we have so much to offer, especially to the younger group. But in that younger group is also fresh perspective, new eyes. You're coming straight out of university, and so there's also that sort of very fresh and very green experience of in the proposal world, but also having just come off the helm of constantly submitting papers and constantly doing writing assignments and preparing deliverables for a different subset. But it's also in nature somewhat of that same kind of fundamental thing that we're doing in the proposal profession. And so I think that by tapping that group, it's only made APMP more well-rounded. It's only made it more attractive to all members, continues to grow the membership overall, but not just in quantity, but also in quality. And so I think that it just makes the networking more rich, more effective. And I think that a lot of the ideas that are coming out of the group still, and even more so, even better. And I think that a lot of people will continue to be pleasantly surprised by some of the resources that come out of the group, and some of the best practices that continue to evolve, but then also some of those events and opportunities to take advantage of to become better in each and every person's individual careers.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we couldn't have said that any better. You just hit the nail on the head, and really is an amazing program, and it really has helped to enrich the organization. That said, we're ready to move into our kind of more fun rapid fire questions round.
Oh gosh.
Constance, that was amazing. Constance, that 50 bottles, Constance, do you have any plans to clear out? I mean, more
You know,
than
I've been getting a little more open-minded about what I'm actually doing with those bottles. So they may or may not get open over the next few weeks, especially since, you know, COVID is really bringing me to the edge and making me reevaluate some of my life decisions. Collecting those bottles is one of them. And so, you know, I got really close a few weeks ago to opening the tequila bottle to make some margaritas, and I didn't do it, but, you know, I will be honest, I have been considering opening some of. My husband really thinks it's completely pointless to just have them sitting there. And so it's starting to get to me. I'm like, maybe he has a point. So it's possible.
got you. So I'm sure, you know, if any visitor comes to your place, do you keep an eye on the bottles, or do you count?
Definitely. Definitely.
That's brilliant. Okay, so you did mention that, you know, recently you're also trying new recipes as well. So what's your favorite dish to
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest. So there's this app that I've been trying out. One of the side effects of being trapped in the house with COVID, or not with COVID, but during the pandemic, has been really being forced to find new ways to get creative. And so on my Facebook, there's ads that are constantly popping up. And one of them that popped up is this ad. I'm going to sound like such a sponsored speaker right now, but there's an app called Emails. And so I decided to give it a go. And basically it gives you like a meal plan of recipes for the week. And so one of the things I found a while back was just that, you know, I was running out of creative ideas for dinner, for lunches. I'm like, I don't know what to make. And then, you know, in extreme situations, I just end up not cooking anything and just kind of ordering in because I was like, I don't really know. I don't want to cook this again. We just had it last week. And so with this app, it started giving me new recipe ideas. And it's really cool because you pick the recipes that you want to try, and then it compiles a grocery list for you. And then it sends that grocery list to your nearest grocer that you pick, or Instacart. And then you go ahead and go do your order, and then it place the order, and the exact groceries that you need are going to be delivered to your door, and you have everything you need to make the recipe. To answer the actual question that you asked me, my favorite recipe that I have discovered out of this has been eggplant ragu. So I love eggplant, love it, love it, love it. And I actually made it yesterday, and I've been making this over and over and over again. So it's kind of ironic that I got this app to try and make different things, but I keep making the same recipe because I love it so much. But it's basically roasted eggplant, and then essentially it's kind of like a meat sauce, but it's, you know, your ground turkey, chicken, beef, whatever you're into, with ground tomato sauce, basil, red pepper or little red wine, garlic and onions that are all sauteed and stewed together for a little bit on over low heat. And then the eggplant, you roast it and you add a little balsamic vinegar, and oh my gosh, it's so amazing. And that's my lunch for today. So as soon as we wrap up, that's what I'm going to go eat.
I think you should participate in MasterChef because you were amazing.
In my mind, I think I am. When I'm cooking, I think I am.
I think you should, Constance. Is there any foods that you dislike, Constance?
Oh gosh, yes, lots of food. So I guess to kind of go back to the original question you guys asked me was, you know, where I'm from. I'm from South Carolina, a super small town. I'm from the country. I'm very much what you might call, you know, a country mouse. And so all of the foods that you might find in like a small town, bologna, I don't eat hot dogs. Like I don't like, you know, those kind of bland tasting foods. And I know everybody does hot dogs for cookouts and things like that, but I do not put a hot dog in front of me. I don't eat bologna sandwiches. I'm not really a grits person. Donuts. I mean, that question, I could go on. I could take up the rest of this podcast just telling you all the things that I don't actually eat. But yeah, those kind of bland and weird meats, like it's not my thing at all.
Got you. So what are the 3 foods that you are more than happy to eat for the rest of the life? You already mentioned eggplant. Any other?
Easy. Yeah. So again, I'm a foodie. Like I love food. Eggplant for sure. Potatoes. You prepare a potato any sort of way, I will eat it. Unless it's raw. Hash browns, French fries, tater tots. I mean, mashed potatoes. Potatoes are rotten. I love potatoes. love potatoes. And let's see if I think eggplant is one of them already. I would say mushrooms. I really, really love mushrooms as well. I love to add them to any recipe. I love the texture, the meatiness of it. And really, you can put mushrooms on or in anything, and I'll eat them.
Got you. So can you comfortably eat in a restaurant by yourself? If so, what's your favorite restaurant and what do you normally order?
Oh, that's easy. So when I was in DC, I did that all the time. I enjoy my own company, probably a little too much. And so one of the restaurants I would go to a lot was Clyde's. Really loved going there just because the menu would change all the time and it was super convenient to where I lived. And so one of the things that I really liked that they had was their beet and goat cheese salad. Love when they offer lobster rolls. What else have they had? Crab cakes. I love Clyde's. It's one of my favorite places to go when I'm in the area.
Got you. So what was the last gift you gave someone?
The last gift I gave somebody was probably Mother's Day. I have some of my sorority sisters, they made gift boxes to gift to mothers, and it was really nice because I sometimes struggle with what to get people. I either get really carried away and get a lot of little small things that I just think are cute and probably are more fitted for myself. Or I'll really struggle and get you something that's not really useful. And it really is one of the things that keeps me up at night, to be honest with you, is, this is person really likes my gift. And so my sorority sisters, they put together these boxes with like a personalized notepad that had your initial on it. They made a mug with like mom and then the person's name, because I gave like 4 or 5 of them out. Some fresh baked cookies, thank you cards that had their names on them, and a Starbucks card, and I think there was like something else in there, but it was a really, really cute, homemade, personal, and it was such a hit. I gave one to, my mother-in-law, my mom, my grandmother, and they just absolutely loved getting them in the mail, especially during COVID, and you're not really sure, how we're going to celebrate these things, but that was my last gift and probably the best one so far. So I'm going to continue to try and do things like that where it's more of a variety, more personalized, and try and stay off Amazon.
That's nice. So if you were invisible for a day, what would you do?
Probably take a nap. I'd probably find where my son is during his most active time and sit right there next to him and take a nap, knowing that he's not gonna try and come over and get me to pick my. Don't get me wrong, I love my son. I love spending time with him and playing with him. But I would definitely sneak a nap in for sure. I haven't gotten nearly as much sleep since I've had a kid, and it's not because he's up all night. I can't explain it. I just don't get nearly as much sleep as I used to now.
100% Constance. I mean, the sacrifice that the mothers go through in not just giving birth, but then the lack of sleep and then upbringing, it's unbelievable. I mean, I have a lot of respects, and I'm sure many of the listeners who are females might totally agree with you. That's brilliant. So you have been redecorating your home now during the COVID crisis. Any progress? What have you done recently?
Oh yeah, lots of progress. So one of the things now that I've been doing, we just moved into a new home about 6 weeks ago. Again, mid-COVID, really stressful, really anxiety-inducing, just, trying to make sure everything stays super sanitized and clean, and you've got a lot of people kind of coming and going, movers and whatnot, especially with having my 9-month-old. And so that was really hectic, but now that we're in the new house, one of the things that's really been keeping me busy outside of work has been redecorating. And so on my Instagram now, I probably have at least, 30-something accounts that I'm following who just specialize in interior decorating. And so now in my mind, I think that I'm one of them. And so I've been trying to emulate all these cool styling techniques that they've been doing with stacking books or decorating a coffee table or, decorating built-ins. And Buster, you saw my bookshelves behind me. That's not one of my styling attempts, but the room that I'm in is my own little room. And so this is probably where I've made the most progress in. It's somewhat of my reading room, and it's also my office. And so I've got my reclining chair in here, a very subtle file cabinet because I don't want to take away from the fact this is my Zen room, so to speak. I bought this vintage hourglass. So I thought it would be a cool way to kind of keep track of tasks and time management and make sure that, you know, I'm giving an hour to things that really need my attention at least. So that's one of those rooms. There's things I still want to do in terms of putting up different decorative ideas on the wall. I really want to get some painting done, and we almost had somebody come in and do that. But again, COVID, so we backed off from that idea and, you know, reevaluated how many people we had coming in and out of the house. And so it's one of those things that's going to wait for a while until things get back to quote unquote normal. But in the meantime, I'm doing everything I can outside of that, like hanging pictures and, you know, moving chairs around and doing place settings in the dining room, things like that to, you know, really keep my creative juices flowing.
That's great. What's the furthest you have traveled to, Constance?
Thailand is definitely the farthest. For that trip, the flight was 25 hours, and it was very interesting just because I travel for work, but I really don't like being on planes, very much just because I can't control it, and I can't leave when I want to leave and get to where I want to get to, and I got to get to that place. And so being on the plane for 25 hours was a little maddening, but that's the furthest.
Got you. So what's your favorite destination so far?
Jamaica.
Ooh.
If I could go to Jamaica once a month, I would go there. If I could buy a home and just go work from Jamaica, I would do it all the time. It's my absolute favorite place on earth.
Of course, you know, with all the passion that you have on food and stuff as well, that's an unbelievable place. Amazing. So,
yes.
Yes, if you, okay, let's try this. If Jurassic Park was real, would you visit it?
I'm sorry, if Jurassic Park was real, what was the last part?
Would you visit it? Would you travel to Jurassic Park?
No, I wouldn't. No.
No? So what's the scariest thing that you have ever done in your life?
That's when my husband and I were just dating. We traveled to Puerto Rico and we went to this park, and I'll have to see the name of it after I Google that. I think it's like La Verde or something like that. They have the longest zip line ever in the world. And so I thought it'd be fun. We have this thing when we travel where he plans one part and then I plan another part. And so for my part, I planned this super thrilling thing that I don't know why I planned this. And we went to the zip line part where we did 8 zip lines. They were of varying length and speed. And so we went through all 8. And then the last one is a 2-mile zip line that they harness you from your back. And so you're literally you're literally stomach down to the world, and you're harnessed from your back on this 2-mile zip line, right? And so we've done all 8 of them. Some were super fast, some were really long, but they were like your regular, just kind of like sit, almost Indian style, like zip through the forest. It was beautiful, very just awesome. And we got to the last one, and at that point, I'm just like, well, I don't think I'm going to do this. You know, I don't have a fear of heights, but I have a fear of falling. I hate that dropping feeling. And the fact that we're going to be stomach down, just, I don't know, like 2 hours later, just really disturbed me. And it was really the only way to get down. And so I'm thinking, I got to do this. And, you know, and we're dating, and, you know, I don't want him to break up with me. And, you know, he's going to think that I've done all this stuff and, you know, planned this all out. And now I'm going to like not go enough. I'm kidding when I say he's going to break up with me, but at the same time, he's just like, no, you got to do it. We've already gotten to the top of this. And he's super adventurous, which is why I didn't plan this thing. And so they got him all harnessed in, and I've got pictures of this and everything. And then they harnessed me in, and I'm like, all right, because you can go at the same time. And so, you know, for some other couple, it might be romantic. For me, it was disruptive completely to every sensibility I had. And so finally they're able to talk me into actually doing this. And so they let us go at the same time. My husband's twice my size. He's 2 times as tall as I am, and he's heavier. And so that helps a lot on the zip line. And so he just zipped away, went right through and got to the other side. And when I tell you, I can't, it must be like 10 or 13 miles above like the highest of the trees in that rainforest. So it's super high. And so when they let me go, I go to about the half point of the zip line and I stop because I'm just not heavy enough to get me all the way to the end. And so I'm just kind of like hanging there midway in the sky over these trees. And it's freaking me out because I'm like, anything could happen to these lines. I'm one of those people, like, I've seen all the Final Destinations. You know, I'm a freak accident person. I'm always thinking of this could happen here. And I'm like, what if somebody did not secure this zip line well enough to one of these trees or wherever they connect them? And I'm just like hanging here, you know, praying because I'm super close to heaven at this point. And I'm just like, please let me get to the other side of the zip line. And so I can hear my now husband yelling, you know, reach for the rope, because somehow this rope appears out of somewhere that I'm supposed to pull myself along to get to the other side. And so I see it, and then I'm able to very, very, very slowly pull myself over there, because now I have let my hands go from over my chest, because at this point I'm praying. So I let them go, and I'm pulling myself to the other end and get to the end of it, get off the zip line, and vow to never, ever, 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 ever do that again. And so, you know, we always talk about revisiting Puerto Rico. I thought it was a great trip, but, you know, I'm very clear on the fact that we are not going back to that zip line part ever again.
What's the naughtiest thing you have done in school?
The naughtiest thing I've done in school. This is gonna be so bad or sound bad, but there was a time when I was in high school, I was in 9th grade, and we were all kind of hanging out under the bus court at lunchtime. That was just what we did. You have your lunch, and then everybody goes and hangs out under the bus court. It's kind of like recess for older kids, I guess. And under the bus court was like a ton of photo machines and snack machines. And one of my really good friends and I saw where all of the machines had been stocked that day, but the one machine that we were standing next to, I guess the guy stocking the vending machines had not opened it all the way. Didn't lock it back. So the little handle was sticking out. And so we managed to very easily kind of pop it open. We didn't take anything, but what happened was a very slow motion realization of everybody that was outside at that very moment saw that the snack machine was open and completely raided this poor little snack machine within a matter of like 5 to 10 minutes. It was completely bare bones, freshly stocked vending machine, literally was void of snacks in 10 minutes. And it was probably the funniest thing that's ever happened in my entire life. I don't think I've ever laughed that hard since that one day in 9th grade. But I would say that's probably the naughtiest thing because, you know, I don't think it was naughty. I think that it created opportunities for people to get snacks, but it wasn't good just because, I mean, that poor vending machine lost out on making all of the chump change that us high schoolers had in our pockets.
Gotcha. Do you have any nicknames, Constance?
A lot of people call me Connie against my will. That's what most people probably call me. And I guess that's really it. When I was in high school, my friends called me CD because I was Constance Dyson then, and they still do call me CD. But that's probably as far as I've gotten these nicknames. People love to butcher my name with things I think are funny, like consonant or constant. But other than Connie and CD, those are really it.
Got you. So you're a wedding official, but let's assume you have been a wedding official for a long time and everybody knows who you are. Which celebrity wedding would you think that you would like to officiate?
That's a good question. Probably, I guess this is probably if I could think of a couple I think would be fun. I think Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade looked like they had a really fun wedding. I wouldn't have mind officiating that wedding. or John Legend and Chrissy Teigen, they probably would have been a fun couple to officiate their wedding. But something along those lines where the couple is kind of fun and it doesn't have to be, really by the book. Just, kind of fun and laid back and, able to make it, a little comedic.
Nice. Okay, so if you were the President of United States now, what would you do on your first day?
Oh gosh, what would I not do? It's such a loaded question right now in the current climate. I think the biggest thing right now, oh gosh, I mean, between what's going on within the Black community, my community, as well as the pandemic, I mean, that's where I would start. I don't know how much can be done right now in terms of trying to rein in the COVID crisis. But between that and enforcing better repercussions for extreme tactics within the police force, though, that's probably where I would start, especially given, how many incidences have occurred and how much pain people are in. I mean, people are really hurting and really divided over a number of elements to both of those situations. And right now, I think we're in a pretty bad place in terms of just the racial divide, as well as this virus that is affecting so many people.
So who are the people who have been the most influential in your life and career?
Definitely my parents, I would say. Having come from a small town and from very hardworking parents, I think that's really driven me to become who I am today. Being humble and being hardworking are two of the probably biggest things that I've taken away from my own upbringing. Those are the values that they instilled in me. And so, just remaining humble and being compassionate and giving back and continuing to work hard, I think has brought me from small town South Carolina to where I am today and working for one of the biggest brands in the world and, being able to impact a lot of people, on my life goals. And I think that comes from, having the parents that I have.
That's beautifully said. So who's the kindest person you know?
I think it's a tie between my mom and my grandmother. They're really, really kind. I don't recall a time I've ever seen my grandmother be upset or mad or angry. They both, are the kind of people that are never vengeful, never petty. They're very kind and compassionate and don't seek to, I guess, get back at people who wronged them or upset them. As I said, if either of them do get upset, I don't know that I've ever witnessed what that looks like. So just kind of witnessing, the kind of people that they are and how forgiving and I don't know what word I'm looking for kind of letting things roll off your back or not being a grudge holder. Those are the kind of people that my mom and my grandmother are and what they embody. And so when we talk about kindness, they instantly come to mind because, they're able to make people feel warm and welcome, easily received, and they're just really nice and courteous. Anybody who comes around my family, they have a repeat invitation from those two. So easily my mom and my grandmother.
That's beautifully said. What's one kind or thoughtful thing that you remember from your past 5 years or something?
So a friend of mine, I guess the backstory would be my mom, Jess, I guess survived or got past her breast cancer diagnosis. She just wrapped up with radiation and chemotherapy. And, you know, something that we really struggled with as a family and you know, really fought through to help her get through her journey with that. And my younger brother and a friend of his on Thanksgiving Day of this past year, you know, we all try to get creative about how we would spend Thanksgiving together. And I wasn't able to get down to visit my mom. But I know she was pretty disappointed that she wasn't able to just kind of find that energy to put together the whole normal Thanksgiving spread that she would normally do, and didn't really have the energy to go visit with anybody either. And so my two nephews were visiting with her. They're very young children, and my brother's friend at the time, she lived probably about an hour and some change away, whereas my mom lives in like low country South Carolina. Like I said, it's a very small town. My brother's friend, she gathered up her mom, her children, and all of her friends, and they brought Thanksgiving to my mom's house. They went out and got groceries, and they did this big seafood, like Charleston style boil. And I just thought that was the kindest, most thoughtful, touching thing that I've ever seen anybody do, mostly because she didn't have to do that. It probably inconvenienced her a whole lot. And she was able to pull together a group of people who didn't know my mom, didn't know the area they were going to, you know, had no familiarity with any of these things, but they all just, you know, packed up the party and they brought it to my mom. And I just, you know, it's probably one of the best things I've ever witnessed in my entire life when it comes to, you know, really seeing kindness in other people and seeing people be able to think about somebody else outside of themselves.
That's beautiful. Constance, last one from me. The journey that your grandmother went through to your mom, and now from mom to you, and from you to your son, what does privilege means to you, and how do you plan to inspire people?
Sure. So that's something I think about a lot in terms of the values that I want to instill in him that, you know, I took from my parents, who took from their parents. There are some very key messages that have been passed down and have remained really solid in terms of what we all try to embody as a family, and that what we try to also pass down to generations that come after us. And some of those things include being humble and compassionate and kind. That's the biggest thing I think that I've gotten, not just from both my parents, but also from their parents. It's kind of like that meme that you always see go around, which is, you know, be as kind to the janitor as you would to the CEO, or something to that effect. And I think that couldn't be more true for my family, and something I definitely want, you know, my son to take away from, not just learning that from me, but also seeing clear examples of that as well. Another thing that my great-grandmother, my grandmother's mom, really wanted to pass down to us was be particular. It's something that, you know, always comes up when we reflect on our family history. And basically what she meant by that was, you know, not to settle for status quo, not to just accept anything. And then also being very choosy in the spaces that you occupy and the things that you get yourself involved in. And so it's another thing that I want my son to make sure that he understands and really takes to heart as he is taking his own journey through life, is making sure that he is being particular and being selective in the spaces that he occupies and the choices that he makes and the things that he gets involved in, not just personally, but professionally, financially, basically in every area, just keeping that in mind to be particular.
Wow, that's very powerful, Constance, and I'm sure he will make you proud and your whole family proud. I'm 100% sure. Thank you, Constance.
All right, Constance, we're down to our final 3 questions for you. It's been so amazing and inspiring listening to your journey and your story. You kind of mentioned early on how you fell into proposals a little bit, were kind of duped. You thought it was a marketing position and it ended up being proposals, but you've stuck with it, you know, over the years. Looking back, what's one thing you wish you had known when you began your proposal career?
Well, first and foremost, I wish I had known that storyboards did not mean drawing squares on a sheet of paper with a ruler. That I always think back to that story and just think I really wish somebody had told me, so I didn't look foolish in that situation. But I think that I wish somebody would have, shared with me what the opportunities look like and how to best create opportunities. Before the mentorship program came about, I don't think that I really realized the value of really having somebody in your corner to help not just really pull you up, because I don't think that's always the situation when you have a mentor, or even I think some people go as far as to call an extreme mentor, maybe even a sponsor, but just what you can pull from different people. One of the things that I learned not that long ago was, that your mentor can be somebody who you don't have a formal relationship with. And that's something that, maybe subconsciously I've taken in, but more so really being conscious of it and looking for people whose journeys I admire, or who are at a place that I aspire to be at someday. Now I think I'm more conscious of picking up and emulating some of the behaviors, some of the practices, and just how they present themselves, and having, that executive presence, and having that experience, and having the knowledge. Those sort of things are what I wish I'd known early on, and I probably would have immersed myself in, reading certain books, or just learning more on the technical side, or, understanding more about branding myself, and really trying to hone in my own executive presence, and how I come in and occupy a space as well. So learning that early on, and really taking it seriously from the time of drawing up storyboards to this point now, I wish that I had known that then. And it's something that I try to help people who are coming into their careers just now, or they're starting to really understand who they are and what they want to do. Try to help them to understand that. And then I also want to add also that the journey is not always just up. It's also lateral. And I think that a lot of times people get caught up in climbing the ladder. And that was certainly me early on, was, how high can I get? How, much money can I make? What position can I go as high as? And now I think that what I find more rewarding, having worn a couple different hats in the proposal world, is that what's more rewarding to me is finding what I enjoy doing, and then moving around laterally to best capitalize on that, or finding other areas that I might enjoy doing, versus trying to be a part of that rat race and try to, see who gets to the top first. That I found early on can be very anxiety-inducing, very stressful. And then what some people find is that I don't really like doing this as much, or I don't want to be, leading from the top. I want to be leading my peers, or managing down, or managing, laterally, or managing across, or what have you. But I think that that's probably one of the other things that I wish I'd known early on, is that, the ladder is, or your career path does not have to be just up the ladder. It can be side to side, lateral, across, anywhere you really want it to go. And the biggest prize is not going to be that title or that paycheck. It's going to be, what makes your life enjoyable. And I've had several life experiences over the last several years that have really kind of turned that light bulb on for me in terms of, what's important in life. And that, I think, has made me really start to think about, what my career development looks like.
That's amazing perspective. What's the best piece of advice that you've received, and who gave that to you?
So the best piece of advice I have ever received was from a manager that I had that was not my manager very long. I started a position when I first moved to DC. And the manager that I had probably for maybe a month before she moved on, I don't even remember her last name. Like, that's how short our duration was of working together. But one of the things she said to me was that a manager or a mentor of hers had told her, always find at least one thing that you like about everybody. And as simplistic as that sounds, I still use that to this day, because especially what's going on in the world, it's so easy to be critical of others. And for me, I'm critical of self as well, very much so. And I think it's very easy to get into that internal dialogue of all the things that are wrong. And as we're in the society of constantly finding gratitude and things like that, I think one of the things that's also important is finding things in others that you really enjoy or admire. And I find not only does that help you to be able to collaborate or interact with people better, but it also helps you to really kind of hone in on the positivity, hone in on, you know, what value this person brings. And so I have found now, just from keeping that in the back of my head, again, very simple advice, but it pops up from time to time when I find, you know, there might be somebody who just kind of scratching my head, what's this person talking about, and that kind of thing. And then I find, I'm like, well, but this person's really good at remembering things about somebody's personal life. This person's really good at compassion, or even with the current climate of today and all the ugliness that's coming out of it, it's a little more challenging to ask that question and be able to have an answer. But there really is a lot of good in people, and I think that it's not as frequent as some of the other images we're seeing, but it's somewhat easy to find that there are a lot of people that deep down, you know, may not be able to show it on the very obvious surface, and you're able to see it right away. But there are some people who, you know, may have had an experience that made them who they are today, and with a little bit of digging or a little, you know, conversation, you know, you may find that there's something that you really respect or value about a person, even if you don't like, you know, what you're seeing in front of you, or you don't like what they're saying or what you're hearing. I think that if everybody was able to kind of take that advice and just, you know, go day to day with it, and just constantly think, you know, what's something good about this person, or what do I like about this person, you'll find it almost completely transforms, you know, your outlook in that moment. And it's really helpful and powerful and therapeutic to do that. And I think it's something that's needed right now.
Absolutely. And just, you know, amazing advice to really help with that collaboration and that kind of empathetic management and collaboration in order to really, you know, get along well. I'm sure that really, you know, helped, you know, that story you told us about where you really bonded with a team. You know, finding that good in people can really help you to bond and have that perspective. It's just amazing. You've talked about, you know, all these amazing accomplishments. You've done so much up until this point. What's next for you? What are you looking forward to in the future?
That is a great question, something I also think about every day. So right now, you know, I just started my position with Amazon. I absolutely love it, love it, love it. I think the company is amazing. I really love the team and the manager, people that I work with day to day. You know, I'm truly happy doing that. I think that I'm at a place right now where balance is really important for me, and I want to make sure that, you know, I am able to find that work-life balance and be able to, you know, watch my son grow and, you know, see him, you know, become his own little person, you know, see my family grow and come together and spend time with everybody. I relocated back to North Carolina from DC for that very reason, was so that I would be able to spend more time with my family and to kind of remove myself a little bit from that rat race, which is what kind of propelled me into that mindset of, you know, lateral movement versus upward movement. And so now what's next for me is really just kind of taking advantage of that and, you know, spending that time with my family and, you know, enjoying those moments that you don't get back at. You know, it's so cliche to say life is short, but what I've witnessed over the last few years is it really, really, really is. And, you know, I just don't want to look back and think, you know, look at all these proposals that, you know, I helped win the contract for, or all the hours that I spent, you know, putting these sections or these proposals together. I'm very happy at this point in time in the present with the job that I have and with where I am with my family. And I hope to continue with that for some time, and just continue to grow, continue to learn, continue to meet great people. But right now, when we talk about what's next, it's really more for me, what's now. And I'm just taking in and really, you know, enjoying where I'm at right now and really enjoying the people that I get to work with and enjoying my family and the time that we get to spend together.
Yeah, that's amazing and so true. Life really is short, and making time for that work-life balance is definitely, you know, and a priority that many of us admire.
Perfect. So, yeah, what's the name of your poodle? And what are the 3 questions would you like to ask the poodle?
Oh gosh. Okay, so my Pekingese poodle, his name is Tyson. I got him when he was probably about 3 months old, and he spent most of his life with my parents because they somewhat dog-napped him very early on and did not return him for some time until my father fell ill. And then we took the dog back, which was right after I got married. And so my husband inherited a stepdog. So what I would want to ask Tyson would be, you know, is he okay, you know, going from house to house? You know, are there any foods that he misses that my parents fed him that, you know, we don't really feed him because we give him, you know, just dog food, and they kind of gave him whatever, dog food plus whatever was in hand, potato chips, all that good stuff. I would also ask Tyson, does he really like when I play the YouTube music for him, or does he really care? Because it doesn't seem like he's in the TV, so I really would want to know, you know, does this music help you? Is it soothing? You know, are you calm? And then I guess, you know, I would want to know what you think about the baby. I really am curious because at one point he seemed curious, and now it kind of seems like he is disinterested and just doesn't want anything to do with my child. And so I want to know, you know, what you really think about him.
Nice. So if we ask for a reference from your little poodle Dyson for a job interview for you, what do you think Dyson would say about you?
Oh gosh, I don't know if I would get that job. And I say that because for the last 9 months, you know, I will be totally honest, he's been slightly neglected. And the reason, or not the reason, but it's just a stark contrast from, especially my last few months of being pregnant, when I spent so much time just cuddling him and playing with him. And, you know, we took all these selfies together, and, you know, it was me and Tyson all the time. We'd take all these walks, and, you know, we were inseparable. And, you know, I'd put clothes on him, we'd take pictures in our little matching shirts. I mean, it was really just ridiculous, honestly. And now, you know, he just does not get the same type of attention at all, especially when the baby first came along, just because, you know, he got the attention as we were trying to figure out what we do with this new person. Now he gets more attention, but at the same time he's older. And so his attention is more so being cared for some of the health issues versus, you know, just kind of playing and hanging out. He gets that too, but, you know, right now the priority is, you know, where he's going in terms of his health, and, you know, is there anything that we need to be paying close attention to, since he's a pretty old dog. He doesn't know he's old, but he's a pretty old dog.
That's beautiful. And the books. So what are your favorite books, Constance? And that's question number 1. Question number 2 is, if there is a book about you, what would be the title of the book?
2 hard questions. Okay. The first question, I'm looking back at my bookshelf right now. I just finished Little Fires Everywhere, just because I watched the show and there were so many unanswered questions for me that I thought that if I bought the book and read it, then those questions would be answered, which they were. So that was a pretty good read. I'll be honest, the show is better than the book. Another book that I've read, I love everything that is Michael Patterson. I love Gillian Flynn, anything that's a suspense thriller. So there's one that's sitting on my nearby now that I plan to read, which is called The Epidemic. I've had this book for a very long time, but it just got my attention on the bookshelf just because I also like reading about medical thrillers as well. So that's my next read. If there was a book about me, the title would be, I don't know. One of my favorite quotes is a Shakespeare quote, which is "All the world's a stage." I think that might be the title, just because it doesn't compartmentalize what the book is going to be about, and I think that'd be a good way to really kind of cover all of the nuances and phases that I've been through in life and all the growth and development that I've experienced. So I think All the World the Stage sounds provocative enough to make somebody want to pick up the book and then cover, you know, all of the scandalous things, but also, you know, the really deep and encouraging and inspiring parts of my life as well.
Beautiful. And if we made a Hollywood movie about your life, All the World the Stage, who would you like to play or as your character, as a lead role?
Probably, this is going to sound so cliche. I would say Halle Berry, but the only reason I say her is just because she's so experienced with playing so many different roles, and I'm always impressed when I watch an old movie of her or a newer movie, either her or Viola Davis, because I'm always so impressed in how they embody a role so much, with body language, with facial expressions, so much so that you forget about this celebrity or this famous actress and you're really into the character they're playing, and it's so believable. And I think that one of those two very talented, very beautiful actresses is who I would want to come in and play me, because I think that, you know, somebody seeing them on the big screen, hopefully it would be a blockbuster, would look at them and say, man, I really believe, you know, Halle Berry is Constance or Viola Davis is Constance, but not, you know, oh, this is Halle Berry playing a character. And I hope that makes sense, but really just somebody who's just super talented and not, you know, anybody who's kind of set to a certain role or anything like that.
That's beautiful, Constance. With that note of Halle Berry Constance thing, let's wind up. Beautiful. So thank you so much, Constance, for your time today. It's really been a privilege to have you with us at Scribble Talk. I wish you all the good health and happiness, and please continue to inspire everybody around you. Stay safe, stay healthy, Constance, and keep inspiring. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bhaskar, and likewise. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you.
To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Please visit batchyscribble.com/podcast to listen to this episode and check out any of our other previously recorded episodes. If you've enjoyed today's interview, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the Scribble Talk podcast. We hope you'll check out our next episode where we interview another industry expert and special guest. Until then, it's Ashley Kays,
Bhaskar Sundaram,
signing off.